Madam Speaker, the Executive Deputy Mayor finally discovered the language of fiscal discipline. Building Johannesburg together, investing today, securing tomorrow. The tragedy is that her government discovered it only years after fiscal vandalism. It arrives there after decades of political cowardice, cadre deployment, collapsed accountability, and a governing philosophy that treated ratepayers as an endless ATM while infrastructure quietly rotted beneath our feet. And now, after presiding over decline, the ANC asks to be congratulated for noticing the fire while standing in the smoke. The truth is simple. This is not a budget of renewal. It's an election year budget of excuses, tariff hikes, and recycled promises from the very people who broke the city's finances and neglected infrastructure and now claim they want to save. Madam Speaker, the budget for 2026-27 financial year is as follows. Operating revenue, 90.4 billion. Operating expenditure, 88.3 billion. Projected surplus, 2.1 billion before taxes and capital grants. And capital budget of 8.8 billion. Being a total budget of 97.1 billion for the 2026-27 financial year. To the average man in the street, this sounds impressive, but the devil's in the detail. And the detail shows a government that is asking residents to pay more while failing to fix the very infrastructure that would allow Joburg to grow, attract investment, create jobs, and broaden the revenue base. The tariff increases for 2026-27 is reported as follows: property rates at 3.6, electricity at 8.63, water at 12.5, sanitation 11, and refuse at 6.2. Madam Speaker, this is the heart of the matter. Johannesburg's residents are being punished twice. First through collapsed services, and then again through higher tariffs to pay for the collapse. The ANC-led government has chosen the easiest route, squeeze the same ratepayers harder every year instead of fixing the city so that more businesses, more workers, and more households can contribute to the rates and the tariff base. The Deputy Mayor stated in her speech yesterday that the sanitation tariff on the multi-dwellings for sizes 300 to 1,000 square meters will have a 0% increase, providing interim relief while alternative structures are modelling for 2027-2028. The relief is farcical, as most multi-dwelling units are between earth sizes 20 to 300 square meters. Once again, there is no rational agreement to increase the sanitation charge by 11% for residential properties. If the charge is based on earth sizes, it should be increased in line with the property rates of 3.6. The other contentious issue is the water demand levy increasing by 65.6% without any explanation. Possibly that's where the relief is hidden for the sanitation tariffs on the multi-dwelling units with the earth sizes 300 to 1,000. Will have zero, and while they get their 0% increase. An economist says there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's also no such thing as endless affordability. At some point, higher tariffs on the shrinking and struggling base do not rescue revenue. They destroy compliance, drive non-payment, push investment away, and make honest residents question why they should keep paying more for less. Madam Speaker, a city losing 44.7% of its water and 27% of its electricity and collecting 86% of its budget revenue equates to the following under-operating expenditure. Other losses for water is 3.7 billion. Bulk purchases at 27% loss equates to approximately 5.5 billion. The debt impairment of 10.5 billion. That equates to a total cost of losses of approximately 19.7 billion for the 2026-2027 financial year. It's the cost this is the cost that every rand lost through illegal connections, metering, tampering, billing weakness, non-payment, and water losses. That is money lost that cannot repair Johannesburg and represents almost 22% of the operating expenditure budget. This is the cost of ANC failure. It's the price residents pay when pipes are not fixed, substations are not secured, billing is not trusted, meters are not managed, and the city's lost control over the basic systems of government. Employee-related costs at 24.3 billion, or 27.5% of the operating budget or expenditure. The increase of 6.5% represents a provisional or natural attrition of 2.5%, and the PFA allocation of 1.2 billion that was implemented in 25-26 financial year, still in violation of the minister's letter declaring it illegal. Repairs and maintenance of 7.6 billion, or repairs and maintenance as a percentage of PPE at a ratio of 8.1, finally is in line with National Treasury's benchmark. But maintenance alone is not a turnaround. A city with a 220 billion rand infrastructure backlog cannot patch its way to prosperity. Johannesburg needs capital investment at scale, targeted at the infrastructure that makes daily life and economic activity possible. Water, electricity, roads, stormwater, and public safety systems and waste services. Madam Speaker, the PFA is estimated to cost roughly 10.3 billion. That is more than the capital budget of 8.8 billion and represents 1.2 times more than the capital budget. With the infrastructure backlog of 220 billion, any responsible government would have prioritized infrastructure. Instead, the capital budget is almost flat. The city has had a capital budget of 8.7 billion in 25-26 and now brings 8.8 billion in 26-27. Against a 220 billion rand backlog, that is not a rescue plan. It's an admission that this government has no credible infrastructure turnaround. Worse, the cuts fall directly on areas residents see and feel every day. JRA capital expenditure drops from 916 million to 570 million. Transport drops from 573 million to 111 million. Health drops from 38 million to 14 million. Community development drops from 99 million to 16 million, and public safety drops from 41 million to 35 million. ICT drops from 420 million to 175 million. That means MSCOA is still going to remain dormant in the city when it is desperately needed. So when the Deputy Mayor says the budget is about securing tomorrow, the question is, with which roads, which clinics, which transport systems, which community facilities, which safety systems, and which digital infrastructure? The funding sources for 2026-2027 tell a story of a city unable to fund its own infrastructure, with the COJ loans at 3.5 billion, or 39.9%, COJ cash at only 278 million, or 3.2%, national grants at 4.5 billion, or 51.7%, and provincial grants at 4.1 million, basically 0%, and others at 458 million, or 5.2%. Gone are the days when I was a councillor 13 years ago, when the funding mix of City of Johannesburg was a third in loans, a third in cash, and a third in national and provincial grants. This is not a financial strength, this is dependency. A city that contributes so much to the national economy should not be reduced to relying on grants and loans, because its own finances have been hollowed out by poor governance, weak collection, waste, losses, and political choices. Madam Speaker, the DA's alternative is clear. We do not believe the answer is We do not believe the answer is to test the Laffer curve every year by pushing tariffs higher and hoping residents will somehow keep paying. We believe in fixing infrastructure first, restoring confidence, attracting investment, growing businesses, creating jobs, and broadening the base of people and companies who pay for services. This is how a city grows. This is how a city grows without crushing residents. This is how rates and tariffs can eventually come down, not because political promises relieve before an election, but because the city becomes functional, investable, and economically alive again. Reliable water and electricity are not technical luxuries. They are the foundations of employment. Every burst pipe, every outage, every pothole, every failed traffic light, and every missed refuse collection tell investors that Johannesburg is at risk. Fixing infrastructure is therefore not a service delivery issue, but is an economic growth strategy. The draft rates policy and the draft rates bylaw pushing through, and the submissions specifically from Jopoma and others, can the Deputy Mayor ensure that this Council has corrective measures in place and have been implemented to avoid unnecessary litigation? That being said, where are all the submissions relating to the budget from residents? I personally submitted comments on the RDP and on the tariffs, on the prescribed form, yet
50
cannot
seconds
find
left.
any submission of any residents. Madam Speaker, unfortunately, based on the time limit that I have, the Democratic Alliance does not support this budget. Thank you.